If you're over 40, 50, or even 60, staring down decades of accumulated stuff, I see you. Today, I'm sharing my top 10 decluttering tips so you can skip the mistakes I made and tackle your clutter with confidence. And number 7 is a total game changer, so stay with me. Let me walk you through what I wish I'd known before I started my decluttering journey. These are lessons I've learned firsthand, sometimes even the hard way. Most times the hard way. That's how I learned. I'm going to rip the Band-Aid off right from the get-go. Your kids do not want your stuff. This one hit me like a ton of bricks. I was talking to my son recently about replacing a pair of old leather chairs we've had for 25 years. They've come with us from house to house to house, and they're too bulky for our current house. And frankly, they've seen better days. They don't owe us anything anymore. But he looked at me like I'd suggested throwing out the family dog. He said, "We've had these chairs forever. You can't get rid of them." So I asked him if he wanted them. Maybe he could put them in his apartment. His response was a very firm, "Oh God, no, absolutely not." And that's when it all clicked. He wasn't attached to the chairs. He was attached to the idea of them. Your kids might feel nostalgic about your stuff and all of the memories they are a part of, but they probably don't want to take that stuff home with them. The same goes for my mom's collection of knickknacks and tchotchkes and holiday dishes. She loves them, but just thinking about dealing with them someday completely overwhelms me. I don't want to do that to my kids, and it's really helped me see my things differently. Here's a pro tip for you. Ask your kids directly about specific items. Their answers might surprise you, and it'll give you the freedom to let these things go. Sentimental items are the hardest. Here's the truth. Loving something doesn't always mean it belongs in your life. I inherited this clown painting that was gifted to my parents when I was born. It was a thoughtful gesture from a family member. It wasn't a cheerful circus clown though. Oh no, it was a 1970s style creepy pink clown that looked like it had a sinister secret. Everyone who saw it was afraid of it. Years later, my parents have tried to pass it on to me, saying, it's sentimental. You had this when you were born. I reluctantly brought it home, but my kids flat out refused to let it into the house. One look and they were convinced it was cursed. And honestly, I couldn't argue. We wrapped it up and I gave it back to my parents for Christmas that year as a joke. And since then, it's been going back and forth to a lucky family member every Christmas since. And so the moral here is sometimes letting go of sentimental items isn't about losing the memories. It's about creating space for new ones that aren't tied to a creepy clown glaring at you from the wall. If you truly love an item, display it and enjoy it. If not, donate it so someone else can appreciate it. And if you're torn, take a photo to preserve the memory. It's easier to store pixels than clutter. Decluttering isn't a sprint. It's a marathon. That's something you need to remember, and that's okay. I used to think I needed to tackle an entire room in one day to make any real progress. But life doesn't work that way. There were days when I barely had time to do anything because of work or family obligations, or just feeling too overwhelmed to even start. One day I tried a different approach. I set a timer for just 10 minutes and focused on one small area, like a drawer or a single shelf. It was a revelation. Those 10-minute wins started to add up, and I didn't feel as defeated when life got busy. So remember, you're not racing anyone. Consistency beats speed every single time. Also, don't be afraid to pause when something meaningful comes up. I've skipped entire afternoons of decluttering to go grab a coffee with a friend or watch my kids' hockey games. Those moments matter far more than a perfectly organized home. And it's okay to make mistakes. Letting go can be scary, especially when you're unsure if you'll regret it later. I remember standing over a box of clothes, staring at a sweater I hadn't worn in years, wondering if I'd miss it. Spoiler, I didn't miss it. Here's what worked for me. Create a maybe box. Put items you're on the fence about into that box and tuck it away for a few months. when you revisit it, you'll likely find that you've forgotten most of what's inside it, and letting it go is going to feel a lot easier. Sometimes regret sneaks in because you spent good money on something that just doesn't fit your life anymore. You don't want to feel like you're throwing money away, but every time you see it sitting there, it's like a little reminder of a choice that didn't work out. Here's the thing. Holding on to it isn't doing you any favors. Donate it, sell it, and let it go. Take the lesson, move forward, and enjoy the fresh space you've created for something that truly fits your life right now. And if you do let go of something you later wish you'd kept, remember that it's not the end of the world. Most items can be replaced. I've even reacquired a few regret items myself through thrift stores and online marketplaces, which made the experience more fun than frustrating. Number 5 on our list is don't let guilt dictate your decisions. Guilt is a sneaky culprit in clutter. I used to hold on to items because of the money I'd spent on them or because they were gifts. But here's the truth. Keeping something out of guilt doesn't serve anyone. It just adds to the burden. Take, for instance, an ice cream maker I bought years ago. I tend to be an aspirational shopper, and it really shows in a lot of my purchases. It's a bad and expensive habit that I'm trying to break free of. But I had dreams of making healthy homemade ice cream every weekend with the kids. It never happened. It was a lot of time and money to make, and it never tasted as good as store-bought. The ice cream maker, it sat in a cupboard for years, unused, and every time I saw it, I felt guilty. Finally, I donated it to someone who was thrilled to have it, and that guilt evaporated. And I felt a sense of relief knowing it was being used. Let go of guilt by reframing your mindset. The money is already spent, and the item isn't living up to its potential sitting unused. Imagine the joy it could bring to someone else. Selling can be surprisingly rewarding. If parting with your stuff feels like a loss, selling it can turn it into a gain. I once sold an old dining set on Facebook Marketplace that had been sitting in storage. Not only did I free up space, but I also made a decent chunk of change. Even if an item doesn't fetch a fortune, selling it can give you a sense of accomplishment. Plus, it ensures your things go to someone who truly wants them. Start small, list a few items online, or host a garage sale. You might be surprised at how good it feels to see your stuff find a new home and a new life with someone who really wants it. Number 7 is the one I was telling you about. Don't buy organizational tools first. This was a huge lesson for me. I used to think the key to getting organized was cute wicker baskets all over my house. I'd get caught up on the excitement of buying bins and baskets and fancy organizers before even starting the declutter process. I felt like I was preparing for success, but in reality, I was just adding more clutter. Now I declutter first. Once I know exactly what I'm keeping, I can choose the bins and storage solutions that suit the space and my needs. Not only does this save money, but it also guarantees that my home will stay organized long term. Plus, there's something so satisfying about rewarding yourself with a shopping trip for sleek matching storage containers after doing all the hard work of decluttering. Number 8, your home is going to feel bigger. Decluttering has this magical ability to make your home feel bigger, even if the square footage doesn't change. Dean and I joke after clearing out a space that it feels like the house can breathe again. I remember clearing out a closet that was so packed I couldn't find anything in it. And after dealing with the clutter and reorganizing the space, I had the space to actually see and access everything I needed. It was like I had gained a whole new storage area without any renovations. When you let go of items that no longer serve you, you create room for the things that do. Your home starts to feel less like a storage unit and more like a space where you can breathe and relax. The 9th point I want to make is memories aren't in the things. This was a tough realization for me. I used to think that holding on to my grandmother's old teacups or my kids' preschool drawings was the only way to preserve those memories. But I've learned that the memories are in my heart, not in my stuff. For example, I took photos of my kids' art projects before letting them go. Now I have a beautiful digital album that's much easier to enjoy than the piles of paper that were cluttering my home. For truly special items like a quilt Dean's grandmother made, I use them. They bring joy every time I see or touch them, so they're displayed and enjoyed by everyone who sees them. And decluttering can bring joy to others. One of the most rewarding parts of decluttering is knowing you can make someone else's day with your items. I've donated clothes to women's shelters, toys to local charities, and furniture to families in need. Each time it felt good knowing that my stuff was going to a better home and will have a new life and memories somewhere else. Think about it. What's collecting dust in your house that could be exactly what someone else is looking for? Letting go doesn't just benefit you, it creates a ripple effect of joy and generosity all the way down the line. If you've stayed with me this long, I'd love to hear from you. What is the hardest thing for you to let go of? Is it sentimental items or clothes or something completely unexpected? Drop the comment down below and share your story. You might even help someone else who's struggling with their own decluttering journey. Feeling inspired to start your decluttering journey? Remember, it's not just about clearing out space. It's about creating a home that feels lighter, more functional, and full of joy. But there's more to it than just tossing things out. If you're still feeling a bit overwhelmed and don't really know where to start, don't worry. You don't have to tackle it all at once. Start small. Check out my video on 20 things you can declutter in 20 minutes or less. It's the perfect way to dip your toes into decluttering without feeling overwhelmed and stressed. Let's take it one step at a time, starting now.